we go. Okay, so in terms of the program that we're working under the Energy Savings Improvement Program, which is legislation that was passed back in 2012 by the state of New Jersey. The program itself is, as I said, put together by the state, and it's administered by the Board of Public Utilities in New Jersey. So that's a department of the government, and we work with them in the development of these projects to make sure we're going through a solid process, and they actually have some checks and balances throughout it. The legislation itself was originally implemented within the state of New Jersey in order to help public entities to implement energy conservation projects with no taxpayer impact. And that's because the energy savings themselves are used to pay for the project over time. So in terms of how the project works and how the funding is set up, you can see here on the slide. So if we walk into a building such as, or a district such as Monroe School District, the first thing that we do is we look at and assess your profile from a cost perspective. So that's before the improvements that you see on the left-hand side of the screen here. We determined that the cost associated with utilities in the Monroe School District was about $2 million. After going through and identifying opportunities to improve the buildings and improve the efficiency, as well as the classrooms, the educational facilities, etc., we were able to identify ways to reduce the costs within the buildings, reduce the utility costs by $800,000. And in doing so, we're actually improving, at the same time, improving the facilities for the students and staff and improving the educational environment. So some of the benefits of this program are, first of all, the fact that there's no upfront cost associated with an ESIP program. So we do all the work to develop the project on our own up front. We then go forward and we can actually identify and leverage any available utility rebates that we might be able to find within the state of New Jersey. And there's also no debt limit impact because we're actually using the budget that you're spending today. So the key takeaway from this slide is if you look at the fact that the pie doesn't change size, right? The budget that you have today is shown on the left-hand side before improvements is the same size as the budget that you have after the improvements on the right-hand side. The difference is instead of sending the $2 million to the utility company, now you send $1.2 million to the utility company and $800,000 to the financier or funding entity in order to refund that payment. As far as the implementation of the project, Honeywell actually does the implementation ourselves. So we're responsible for developing, designing, implementing, overseeing the project. So the project is our responsibility from the very beginning to the very end, working in partnership with the board and the school district in order to ensure that we're achieving their goals. At the end of the project, we do offer a guarantee, so that the board has the option to take that guarantee. That's always available and required under the ESIP legislation. So in terms of utility incentives within this project that we put together for the Monroe School Township project, what we were able to identify is over $600,000 worth of utility incentives. So that $600,000 is helping to offset the cost of the project for the school district. In terms of the process, as I mentioned earlier, we have to go through this ESIP process, and it's actually overseen by the Board of Public Utilities. There's a very rigid structure to it to make sure that there's checks and balances throughout. The first thing that we have to do is, after we develop all of our energy savings calculations and what we call an energy savings plan that details out how we're actually going to improve the facilities and generate these energy savings, we have to submit that to a third-party engineer. The third-party engineer then takes that information and they actually will ultimately go through all of our calculations, make sure that they're all done in accordance with the standards that have been set by the state and that they agree with the fact that we will actually generate the savings that we're projecting. So we did go through that process and we were successful in gaining their approval. Once that's complete, we have to take both that review that was done by the third-party engineers. Once that's complete, we take the review that was done by the third-party engineer, and we put that together with the energy savings plan. We submit that to the Board of Public Utilities, And the Board of Public Utilities at the state actually reviews all that information, and then they approve the plan. And they've done that as well. You can see actually the approval email is in the upper right here. Just touch it. As far as the scope of work goes, so this is a great project that we've developed. We really feel, very proud of the fact that we can implement this with no cost to the taxpayers. And ultimately, these are the different energy conservation measures that we've identified and worked in conjunction with the school district to select to move forward on. So those projects include district-wide lighting. So there will be new lighting both in the classrooms, exterior to the building, throughout the entire district. We're looking to upgrade the control systems and the building management systems within the high school, the middle school, administration building, as well as the transportation building. And that's obsolete. There's obsolete equipment there today, so we'll be replacing that, upgrading, and implementing new control strategies for efficiency. We'll be replacing boilers in the middle school and Barclay Brook. And then in terms of building envelope, the idea of building envelope is essentially insulation. What we want to do is we want to actually seal the buildings so that outside air can't get into the buildings. And in doing so, it makes the buildings more comfortable, reduces drafts, and it helps to improve the educational environment in general, as well as save energy. So we'll be doing that throughout the district. From an HVAC perspective, so the heating, ventilating, and air conditioning equipment within the district, a handful of it will be replaced through this process. You can see it will be replaced. We'll be replacing rooftop units at the TV studio. We'll be replacing 2 air handling units at the lecture hall. A kitchen air handling unit in the middle school, home ec air handling unit in the middle school, and then a couple of rooms. You can see there, room 100 will have a couple of units replaced in the middle school as well. From a chiller perspective, so this is the equipment that actually cools the buildings and helps to produce air conditioning within the facilities. We'll be replacing the chillers in both Woodland and Barclay Brook. And then finally, solar. So the solar aspect of this project is a power purchase agreement that we help to facilitate. And that power purchase agreement will actually ensure that the district gets a lower rate for their utilities than they're paying today. And it will also implement solar in all the schools that you see here. So Applegarth, Barclay, Middle, Oak Tree, Woodland, as well as transportation and admin building, and there'll be a canopy solar system at the high school. So the solar not only reduces, obviously it's renewable, so reducing your greenhouse gas production, but at the same time it's saving money because you get a better utility rate than what you're spending today with your utility in the local area. From a financial perspective, you can see the financials of the project laid out here. Key takeaway here is capital contribution is 0. The project itself is $12.1 million. Over the term of the project, we are projecting that it will generate $14.1 million in energy savings. We're looking at a utility rebate incentive of $664,000 to help offset costs. And the solar that I just spoke of, that will actually save $4.6 million over the course of the term, so the 15-year term, based upon a reduced utility rate. There is positive cash flow to the project, and there is an optional energy guarantee, as I had mentioned earlier. Where we're at in the process today and the schedule moving forward. So today, we are currently we just finished phase 1, which is development of the project. We are starting phase 2, which is essentially secure funding and then move forward with design. We'll then be moving into phase 3, which will be the bidding and securing of all the work. That will complete in June of 2025. And then we're looking at about an 18-month construction cycle from June through November of 26. And then we move on to the ongoing measurement and verification guarantee period if you so choose.